Okay, we shall begin. Anybody that comes in will be late, tardy, as we say in the classroom. I'm Michael Schachter, the president of the Carolina Nature Coalition, and I want to give some thanks to Public Radio East for having it on their calendar, for the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of New Bern for providing this venue here, and providing our secretary of the Carolina Nature Coalition, Tom Shoup, who is also our technical guru. And I want to thank Melissa Schachter, who's kind of related to me, for getting the food together. And just want to tell you that there's still time to pick up some food there. There's coffee, there's food here. Anybody that's watching this online or later, if you attend these things, you will actually get some food. I just wanted to let you know. There's also shirts available, not better than this shirt. We've got new shirts with the logo on the back and on the pocket, and they're very nice. I wear this one because it's on the front, so you can see it. All right. We only survive by donations. We don't get any funding from any other sources, certainly not from the oil companies or from other places. So if you're interested in what we do, if you're here, you can there's a donation box over there or jar. And if you're online, there's a donation button that you can use. So thank you. I asked one of our presenters about her adventure last year. And I am glad that she is able to be here this month. Taylor Register works as the water quality specialist for Sound Rivers. Sound Rivers is an environmental nonprofit dedicated to protecting the health of the Neuse and Tar-Pamlico River basins. Taylor works alongside the Riverkeeper team, some of who are here, Emily, the volunteer coordinator, and Katey, the Tar River waterkeeper. Taylor's primary responsibility include water quality monitoring for biological, chemical, and physical parameters, data analysis and interpretation, investigating pollution concerns, which is very important, and collaboration with local and state partners to identify and address water quality issues affecting the local community. So, without further ado, the Riverkeeper team.
We're going to try to figure out the best way to do this between the three of us with the microphones. But thank you guys for having us here tonight. We'll go this way. My name is Taylor Register. Like Michael said, I work for Sound Rivers as our water quality specialist.
Hi, there we go. Hi, everyone. I'm Emily Fritz. I'm the volunteer coordinator.
And I'm Katie Zimmerman. I work as your Pamlico Tar Riverkeeper.
I think maybe we'll just do this one and go back and forth, if that's fine.
Let us know if you can't hear us.
Yeah. That's a big difference. But yeah, thank you for having us out here tonight. We're going to be sharing a couple of stories from our Piedmont to Pamlico paddle that we took back in October. We do a lot of different presentations for work, but I do have to say this is the first time we have ever been asked to give a presentation about the paddle. So we are really excited about that because we had an absolute blast and are really excited to share it with you guys.
Okay, this is me now. So just to get us started off, some general information about the paddle. Obviously, what was it? So we've been calling it the Piedmont to Pamlico paddle because we like the alliteration and it's fun and marketable. But it was in October of last year, 2025, the three of us spent 2 weeks, consecutive 12 days to go from Oxford, which is the headwaters of the Tar River, down to the Washington waterfront, which is right where the Pamlico starts. And it was about 170 miles of river. So yeah, that is what we did, and that's what we're here to talk about tonight. So good question is, why would we do this? And there were many reasons that we decided to. The first being that it's kind of a Sound Rivers tradition for all of the river keepers to paddle their entire river. The first Pamlico Tar river keeper, who is our current executive director, Heather Deck, paddled the whole Tar River. What was that? Probably almost 20 years ago now. And then the Pamlico Tar River before me, Jill, paddled the whole thing with our program director, Clay. So kind of seen at Sound Rivers as, what's the word? A rite of passage for new river keepers. So I've been in the role for only about 3 years now, and it was like as soon as I started, I knew eventually I was going to do this, but just waiting for the right time, and a lot of planning goes into it. So that was the main reason, but the other benefits of doing this were just for all of us to get a lot more connected to the river, a lot more familiar with all of the geography and regions as we paddled it consecutively, as well as try to highlight the recreational importance of the Tar River and really encourage people to use it more and do stuff like this. Maybe not paddle the whole thing in 2 weeks, but get out there, go fishing, go kayaking, and stuff like that, because we have what is called the Pamlico Tar Water Trail, and that includes a bunch of camping platforms that were constructed probably about 10 years ago now, and there are, I think, 12 or 13 of them along the whole Tar River, so that's where we decided to camp for the nights as much as we could, and just highlight that as something that's there and something that people can use. And sorry, there's so many reasons why we did this. But another one is that as we went down, we were hoping to identify some points of interest, things that look concerning that we might be able to go back to in the future to address. So that is what we did. And we also did it because we could, and it was a really awesome opportunity, and our jobs are really cool, and the fact that we got to do this is just really amazing. Yeah. Lots of reasons. Oh, look, the screen changed again. Okay, so preparations for the paddle. Like I said, it took a really long time to plan. I knew that I wanted to do this for, as soon as I became the river keeper, and I am so happy that Emily and Taylor both decided to join me on the journey. But it was months and months before October that I kind of started looking at kind of creating a map and figuring out how much is realistic to paddle in one day and where are we going to stay for the nights, trying to line it up with where the camping platforms were. So that took a lot of time. And yeah, what else do I have up here? We mapped out our route, overnight camping locations, making note of any portages or points of interest. So that was a big one. There are a good amount of places that are not, like you can't just paddle through, there are dams and stuff like that. So having to account for that in our daily routines and the amount of time that it would take to get downriver. And yeah, so as we got closer, then we started to get a little bit more organized and figure out, who is going to join us along the way and, connect with them and figure out where we can do that. And then started making spreadsheets like you see on the slide here so that we can start figuring out what is all of the gear that we need and how are we going to get it all into individual kayaks, everything that we need to survive for 2 weeks out on the water. Yeah, so that was definitely a joint effort, figuring out gear and also talking to people at Sound Rivers that have done this paddle before and what was the most helpful things of gear for them and what were good meals that they had along the way, because meal planning was a big piece of it too. But yeah, I think we can go to the next one and talk about our practice paddle a little bit. Is that you?
All right. So Katie, Taylor, and I, we all love being outside, obviously. So we have experience with paddling, kayaking, and camping. But none of us had done something at this level before. We've never gone for 12 days straight. So in preparation, and also to, I think, calm some nerves a little bit, we did a practice paddle that was just 2 days in September, a month before we went on the big journey. We did that one so we could get a little bit more comfortable with the kayaks that we were taking and also see if there were things that we were obviously missing or things that would be a little bit, add more comfort for the longer paddle. So we noticed right off the bat that we would want to have some grips on our kayak paddles because originally we were going to use gloves, but when you're getting in and out of the water, that can cause some problems. We also realized that it'd be helpful to have some extra cushions for our seats because if you're going to be sitting for 10 hours a day, sometimes you want a little more comfort there. I realized on the practice paddle that I forgot a towel, and we really brought minimal sunscreen, and after just 2 days, we were so sunburnt, so we made sure to have a ton of that for the longer paddle. So all in all, very grateful that we were able to do this little short practice run because it made us feel even more confident and prepared when we were going into the bigger journey. So once we had our finalized list of what we were bringing and who was bringing what, because everything had to fit within just 3 boats, we had the feat of trying to fit it all into dry bags or things that would not get wet. So there's the photo on the right of, I believe, Taylor's gear. And that was its own process of figuring out how to pack all the food, making sure that you would be able to access your breakfast when you needed it, or your lunch or your dinner, or sunscreen, emergency kits, all of the little details that we really tried to plan out properly so we were prepared for this. So after all of that planning, then we got to the fun part of actually getting to go on the paddle. We all met at our Washington office, our office in Little Washington, and we all live a little bit farther away from that. So we had an early start that morning. I believe I left my house around 5:30 that morning to get to our office. And this was the first of many times where we got to unload our kayaks and then load it into another vehicle and pack it all up again. So we did that, got everything set, and then headed up to Oxford. Clay, one of our coworkers, was so kind and drove us up there. And the plan was to go to a park where there is a boat ramp and we could easily get into the river and get started bright and early in the morning. And this was the start of things not going to plan. We learned very quickly, months of planning, as Katie said, and it's, nothing ever goes to plan. You can try to make everything as organized as possible. So this was the first lesson of the paddle, because when we got to the park, it was closed. We were not able to access the water from that point. But we were so eager and so excited to get on the water. We also had just repacked the kayak for, I think, the 3rd or 4th time that day. So we were like, we're not doing this again. We're getting on the water. So we found an overpass that went over the river. And we said, it doesn't look that steep. Let's give it a try. So we tied some tow lines and ropes together and kind of stuffed everything in our kayaks and just sent it down the slope. We found out it was really muddy and really slippery, but we were already in adventure mode and really wanted to get out there. So we made it work. And eventually we made it into the water. So we were so excited. And some clues of what happened next underneath it said we were so naive.
I think another piece of context for this is that going into it, we already knew that the water levels were going to be pretty low, kind of in a little drought period. Hold on, let me get back to the mic. But the water levels going into it, we knew were low, but we had been planning this for so long that we were just like, let's just do it. We could either cut off half of the paddle trip or, delay for a couple of days, but we'd been planning it for so long and it's kind of hard to take 2 weeks off of work and then just move that around. So we said, let's just do it.
Day 1 was a nightmare. It was so bad. As you can see in these pictures, it was nothing but rocks. We were supposed to paddle, I believe, 15 miles on day 1. We get on the water, like Emily said, adventure mode. We paddle maybe 5 minutes and get around the first curve of the river. And then it is just nothing but rocks as far as the eye can see. And obviously you cannot paddle over rocks. So we spent, I think that was like 10:30 in the morning, until around 5 p.m. dragging our kayaks with hundreds of pounds of gear over rocks. It was in the 50s this day, so the water was obviously colder. Miserable. I think we made it 3 miles. But by the end of it, we were just like, our legs were cut up and bruised, and we were cold, we were wet. I fell in. I slipped on a rock and fell in. I will admit that. So by 5 p.m., obviously we hadn't made it to our designated campsite for the night, and the sun was setting. So we found the closest, what we deemed safe spot to sleep for the night, and decided once we got into dry clothes, we would brainstorm what to do next. And the best solution we were able to come up with was to get our coworker Sam, who lives in Raleigh, which is geographically kind of close to Oxford, to come out and get us the next day and shuttle us a bit farther downstream to get away from the rocks. So we ended the day on that, feeling a little bit more hopeful. We had a plan, and just were like, we'll take tomorrow as it comes. It cannot be as bad as day 1. Day 2 was worse. Day two was so bad. And I will say, the worst day of the entire trip. So it gets better than day 2. Day 2, we got up, we were excited. Sam was coming to get us, and everything was going to be fine. Important to note that we are not at a boat ramp or anything. We are in the middle of nowhere. I'm not sure if anybody's familiar with where Oxford is. Very small rural area close to the Virginia border. Geographically, it's also very rocky and hilly. So our plan was for Sam to drive to the nearest back road to where we were located, and then we find her and drag our kayaks through the woods and put it in her truck. And it sounded like a brilliant plan at the time. Her truck got stuck in the middle of the woods. That's a picture of it in a creek. It slipped off the trail, and the front end of it got stuck in the creek. So we proceeded to we find Sam in the woods, spend the next several hours trying to get the truck unstuck. AAA wouldn't come, no local tow services would come because, like I said, we are in the middle of nowhere, and apparently AAA will not help if you're not on a main road. So our saving grace was that there was a landscaping crew on the property adjacent to where we were. We found them in the woods, and we were just like, please help us. And they so kindly offered to help us, and they then spent the next several hours using tow chains in their trucks to get our truck unstuck. We spend like 6 hours with the truck. I think it's 4 p.m. when we finally get our kayaks in the truck and down to Lewisburg, where we deemed would probably be fine to paddle and away from the rocks. So we get left at Lewisburg, we get on the water, and we're like, okay, current plan is to paddle just for like an hour before the sun sets, find somewhere to camp. We're back on schedule for day 3. We paddle for 5 minutes again, and we are hit with a blockage, that picture in the middle, of just like trees and debris. There was a toilet up there. We could not paddle over it, we couldn't get around it, and in the process of us figuring out what to do, the sun set. We were in kayaks in the middle of Lewisburg at nighttime, which is that picture there on the right. So our then plan was to paddle back where we came from 5 minutes and pull our kayaks up in pitch black darkness in the middle of this park. And the only solution was to call Emily's fiance, Tanner, to drive 2.5 hours to come get us again, because we just inconvenienced everybody, and drive us to a hotel and start again day 3. So that's what we did. Obviously, it's after dark. The park is closed that we're at, so the police have to come and open the gates for him to get in. It's a whole predicament. They're very confused as to why we're even doing this, and we had to explain that. But by the time we are rescued and we make it to a hotel, and I think that night we went to bed around 1 in the morning, and I think we got 4 hours of sleep and then started day 3. But like I said, day 2 was the worst. It only goes up from here. Who has this one?
I think that's me. Day three gets so much better though. So we wake up at the hotel at whatever time, 4 or 5 a.m. So that Emily's fiance, Tanner, wonderful man, can get back to where they live to go to work. So he had to drop us off pretty early in the morning to where we were planning to put in for the day. So we get there, and it's another kind of long, windy trail to get down to the river. So it takes us a good amount of time to drag all of our gear down there. But the reason we chose this site to put in and hope that it would be smooth sailing from there was because they're on the picture on the left there, you can see that there is a dam. So we were like, we should probably just put in downstream of the dam so we don't have to deal with that. So that's what we did. Yeah, it took a while to get everything in the water, but once we were in our kayaks, there was water in the river, and we were paddling, and it was amazing. And that day, we were joined by some friends, Alton and Jim. Alton Tuning is a really cool guy who is working on updating this book that I used in all of my planning process for this paddle, called Paddling Eastern North Carolina by Paul Ferguson. If you haven't heard of it or read it, definitely recommend if you like to go kayaking or anything on the river. Has like Neuse River stuff too. But he was working on updating that book, and so he wanted to join us for a couple days and hear about what we saw along the way and that kind of stuff. And he brought a friend. And so that was really fun. And at this point, since we put in downstream of that dam, we were a little bit ahead of schedule. So we were like, we don't have to rush anything today. We don't have to paddle 10, 15 miles. And just plan to stop wherever we wanted to once we found a good bank to sleep on, because there wasn't a camping platform in this area. And that's what we did. We found a really awesome, beautiful sandbar that we camped on for the night. And Alton and Jim, our friends, paddled another mile to the next bridge crossing to leave us. And it was really cute. They left a bunch of bananas on a bank that they thought was a good one for us to sleep on, which is what I'm holding in that picture up there. But he left the bananas so we would know which one they were talking about. Okay, and then the next day, we woke up on our bank, and we were planning to meet some other friends that day. Sam, who was our Neuse River keeper, and her really good friend and a friend of Sound River's, Alan, and Sam's dog. And we were meeting them at the same bridge that Alan and Jim got out of, which was just a mile away from where we were. So we got to sleep in a little bit, chill, and we worked on making an Instagram reel of what we were eating for breakfast and stuff, because we had committed to doing a bunch of social media posts along the way for Sound Rivers. And yeah, so we paddled a mile, kind of late morning, and met them at the bridge crossing. Took a little bit for them to get in the water, but then we paddled another maybe 7 miles down the river this day, and it's so awesome in this area near Spring Hope. There's like class 1 rapids, and we were just so excited to be like paddling in water, but the little rapids were really fun. Yeah, so we paddled like 7 more miles that day and found another good bank to sleep on. Sam and Alan, since they didn't have 12 days worth of gear in their kayaks, they were able to bring more fun stuff, like good food. So Alan made a fire, and Sam worked on making us some pita pizzas for dinner, and we roasted some marshmallows, and it was really nice. That funny picture of Taylor, which I love, represents that it was starting to get kind of chilly at nighttime. So yeah, that was a good day. This me too?
All right. There's just so much to cover. It's hard to keep track of everything. So then the next day, after we got to have a campfire and pita pizzas and had a very cold sleep, then we paddled a little bit further, and then Sam and Alan and Charlie, Sam's dog, were going to go back to the real world and can let us continue our paddle. So then we are heading to the Tar River Reservoir. So we were very excited about this day because, one, no more rocks. We were able to actually paddle and not have to get out of our kayaks, but also because our friend Nancy, who's a reporter for the Nashville Graphic, offered a space on her dock for us to sleep on, which sounded great after, sleeping on sand and not always knowing where you're going to be sleeping that night. So we were very excited about it. You can see from our cheesy smiles in the photo. So we arrived at her dock after a beautiful, sunny, relaxing paddle of a day. And she had snacks for us and a hammock. and we felt like we were at a 5-star hotel. It was so luxurious. And so we then spent the night being interviewed by Nancy and trying to retell all of the stories of the first 5 days of our paddle, which was, I'm sure she was very overwhelmed by everything we were saying. And we made dinner, and then we got to have a very peaceful, wonderful sleep right on the water. And in the morning, we woke up to fresh hot coffee and actual coffee mugs from Nancy that she had brought down to us on the dock. And it was just absolutely amazing. So this is one of we had so many beautiful interactions with people who just like wanted to help us out and like want to support us. So this was like a beautiful reminder of that.
Me too. Oh, fun. Okay.
So we woke up on Nancy's dock. It was beautiful. We had our coffee, and then we were extra excited to go this day because it was our halfway point. And for our halfway point, we conveniently had, we were going to be staying the night in Rocky Mount at the tiny homes right in Rocky Mount. And it was Katie's partner's birthday that day. So our partners all came up so we could, see each other after almost a week of not seeing each other, and get to kind of celebrate Andrew's birthday and celebrate that we're halfway through the paddle. And also bring a change of clothes and like all the logistical things that we realized we forgot. Our partners were amazing and brought us extra stuff like that. Yes, more ibuprofen for sure. So it was a beautiful paddle. We were trying to think of everything to include when we were going to be retelling the story to y'all. And yeah, these days, I wish there was more to say other than it was absolutely beautiful. We had the best time getting to take in all the sights. We saw so many amazing different animals. There was one day that we were paddling, and then to our right was just a little family of baby raccoons just hanging out, and it was amazing. We felt like Disney princesses or something. So yeah, then we got to make it to Rocky Mount, and one of our amazing volunteers, Bob Hudkins, came with a trailer, so we were able to, for what felt like the 100th time, unload our kayaks, put it into a trailer, and drop us off at the tiny homes where we were able to shower, which was absolutely amazing, and have some real food. So yeah, this was definitely a needed halfway point, and it was just amazing.
Me?
Who wants to talk about day?
Katie, you talk about
Okay,
this.
I'll talk about this one.
Day 7 was honestly not super eventful, but this is the morning we woke up at the Rocky Mount Tiny Homes with our partners, and they very willingly helped us put all of our kayaks and our gear into the trailers because they're so strong and cool. And Bob Hudkins, our star volunteer from Rocky Mount, came back with his trailer and got us to Battle Park so that we could skip another dam. And we put in there, and I think we had around 13 miles to go that day. So it was a good thing that it was uneventful. The little video thing in the middle is when in Rocky Mount, only a couple miles after Battle Park, we passed Rocky Mount's wastewater treatment plant discharge. So that was something that we noted. We already knew that was there, but figured I'd include it. And yeah, it was really nice, beautiful day. And yeah, we got to the Bourne platform right before sunset and kind of pulled up. They have a little boat ramp kind of thing attached to it, and it's just on somebody's farm. So we unloaded all of our kayaks and set up camp for the night. And yeah, someone found a really cool like possum skull or something that we kept. Yeah.
No longer have it.
Yeah, that's about it for day
That was
7.
the
Really.
night that there was a fox trying to get into our camping platform and it screamed all night.
That was the night at Bourne Platform that there was a fox just screaming all night long. Yeah, we definitely heard a lot of interesting wildlife sleeping out in the wilderness.
Day 8 was also pretty uneventful, but that just means that nothing bad happened. I will note that this day, the water was exceptionally clear for this stretch of the river. We went from the Bourne platform to the River Farm platform, which is, I believe, outskirts of Rocky Mount. Tarboro, my bad. But since the water was so clear, we were able to see a ton of fish underneath our kayaks pretty much all day. So that day, our game was trying to see what fish we could spot while paddling. And we happened to take this picture of two very large catfish that were just snuggling in a hole at the bottom of the river together, which I've never seen before. Really neat. But we ended this day a little later than usual. I believe this was one of our longer paddling days. And was also the start of some really, really cold nights, even colder than earlier in the trip. So we had the brilliant idea of sharing a tent for the rest of the paddle. So previously, we each had our own tent that we would pitch at the end of each day, and then in the morning, we would have to take it down. So we can save time by just doing one tent and packing like sardines in this tent together. So we started doing this on day 8. We pretty much just take turns throwing all of our sleeping gear into the tent, put a little lantern at the top, and play games until we fall asleep in the tent together. Very nice. And then here on the right is an example of some of our gourmet dinners that we had on the paddle. I know we've talked about that we had pita pizzas and we got to eat at Rocky Mount, but most nights we had a singular camp stove. We would take turns eating like ramen noodles and tuna packets and mac and cheese and stuff like that. Very gourmet and fine dining. Day 9 was from the River Farm platform to the Wildlife Resources Commission game lands. This day was also pretty uneventful for the bulk of the day. A cool thing about this is that we started passing mile markers for the river. So we had to take a picture with this one because it marked that we had done about 130 miles so far. I think that was a really good morale booster for us because if we've already done like 100+ miles, like we're over halfway there, we can absolutely do this. So seeing the mile markers was pretty cool. But most of the day, pretty uneventful, another gorgeous day on the water. I think the only issue that we had this day is we made it to the camping platform at the Wildlife Resources Commission's game lands, which is hunting land property. We get there at the end of the day, close to when the sun's setting, and get all of our stuff up the bank to the camping platform. And someone had been in it previously and set a fire inside of the camping platform and burned the whole bottom of it out. So there was nowhere to set our tent. We're like, fine, we'll manage. But then we saw people on the property hunting, and we were like, as 2 or 3 young women, we probably should not be out here by ourselves doing this while like people like are hunting out here. So we decided to paddle a bit farther and find somewhere else to sleep on outside of the game lands. But that proved to be pretty difficult. And we eventually found a sandbar that was big enough, I think, for just the one tent and like us to pull our boats up. That was probably the most like or least ideal sleeping arrangements we had on the trip, but we made it work.
Okay, day 10, we're getting close to the end here. So we left our teeny tiny little bank that morning and paddled a good bit. I think that was probably around 15, 16 miles even that day. It was a long day. And we had plans, originally made plans with the Pitt County Wildlife Club. They have their like clubhouse and buildings right next to the Falkland boat ramp, which is just a little ways north of Greenville. And I had I had given a presentation for their club the year before and was like, hey, we're doing this paddle. Any chance we could sleep at your clubhouse? And they generously said yes. They had a little off building, which is what we're standing in front of in that picture up there. That was like a little classroom, which was air conditioned and had a bathroom and a sink. And we slept in there for the night. And the picture on the right is like when we had first gotten to the boat ramp, and Fred Farrell, who is one of the people with Pitt County Wildlife Club, brought his tractor and a trailer down to the boat ramp and helped us get our kayaks out of the water and drove his tractor over to the buildings for us. And it was awesome and super nice. So just another great example of how helpful and awesome people were along the way on our paddle. So, mentioning that this was a very long day and we're getting close to the end, we were so tired, so sore. We just got all of our stuff inside. I I don't even think got changed and just like put our blankets down on the floor and laid on the floor for a while. But we had plans that night. One of our board members lives really close nearby, and he had offered to pick us up and have us come over to him and his family's house and make us dinner, and it was very nice. We almost turned down the offer because we were so dead. But he was like, no, I'm coming to get you, which was so good. And we're so glad that he did, because it was awesome. We had a really nice like spaghetti dinner and some beers and some dessert, some salad. We had like real vegetables. Yeah, it was awesome. So that was a good day. And then the next morning, Fred helped us get all of our stuff. He brought his tractor and his trailer back and ferried us back over to the boat ramp. And he had another friend with him from the wildlife club. And they also got us donuts that morning. So nice. We took some donuts for the road. I think like stuffed them in some of our little compartments in our kayaks for later. Yeah, and I just remember that morning, you know, the water levels were so low. Like even at this point, we had at a certain point every day been like having to get out of our boats and drag them over sand or over rocks, just because the water was so low. And it wasn't any different this day. And so the other friend, I'm blanking on his name right now, but he drove us over in his truck and looked down at the river, and he was like, "You guys are crazy. I have never seen the water this low. How are you even doing this?" And we're like, "We don't know, man. We're just doing it." So that was really funny, but also kind of like a spirit lifter in the way that it's like, yeah, this is really hard, but we're doing it, and we're only a couple days away. So this was a really long day too. We had a bunch of long days back to back. This was like 17 miles that day, and we were going from Falkland to the last camping platform, which is the Tim Barkley platform, that is a little bit past Greenville. So paddled through Greenville this day, and this was going to be our last night. And so I mentioned we were trying to do some social media stuff amidst all of the craziness of our days. So we decided to like film a reel of us setting up our camp at the camping platform, which was funny. Look at our Instagram, Sound River's Instagram, if you want to see how it turned out. It's kind of funny looking. But yeah, anything that I missed from that day that's notable?
So long. With it being like the second to last day, we were at this point over it. We were having a great time, but we were like, we're so close to being home and we still have another day to paddle. And just like, I remember morale being so low on this day. I think this was the day of the entire trip, day 1 and 2 included, that spirits were just so low and we were just miserable all day. But it was so gorgeous. We were like, yeah, it's pretty out here, but I want to be home. That's all I have for day 11. I gave you the fun one.
You did give me the fun ones to talk about. The last day. So we woke up at the camping platform and we were in great moods. But as Taylor said before, the night before we were just exhausted and so close to home. So we were making a game plan of how we could pack up our camp and get on the water as quickly as possible. So we layered up into the clothes that we wanted to wear while we were paddling during the day, but also had our pajamas on, and we had everything strategically packed so we could just get on the water because we were ready to just fly down the rest of the river. So when we woke up that morning, I don't even know if we stopped for breakfast. We pre-packed breakfast. Oh yeah, we had the smushy donuts that were at the bottom of our kayak, and then we were ready to go. It was also absolutely freezing that morning, so it was probably good that we layered strategically because I paddled in my pajamas for, I think, a majority of that day because I just had to have as many layers as possible. But then it warmed up and we were getting, close to home. We were familiar with the spots that we were paddling through, and it was a beautiful day. We were listening to music. It was just very much like a beautiful ending, like end of the movie feeling good. Yeah, roll the credits. So we were also really excited because we knew that our coworkers were and our friends and family were going to be waiting for us right on the waterfront as we paddled up. So that kind of pushed us to keep going and speed paddle. We would have, when we really needed some energy, we would do like a power paddle hour, and we'd put on really loud music and just like head down paddle for an hour. So we did that quite a lot to get to the Washington waterfront. And we were welcomed back. Lucas made this beautiful sign for us. And the Washington waterfront, it's right next to Pitt Street. So we were greeted by all of our friends and coworkers, and we made them pick up our kayaks and put them away for us because our arms were mush at that point. So that was luxurious in and of itself. And then we went to Pitt Street and ate hot pizza, hot food, and we had some beer, and it was amazing. We got to catch up and retell the stories of everything that we were doing for the past 12 days.
So I just threw this slide in here because I did mention at the beginning that one of our goals of the paddle and reasons that we went on it was to pinpoint some points of interest, things that maybe look a little bit off in regards to water quality. So here's just a couple of things that we saw, honestly. You know, we had pinpointed a bunch of the like industrial and wastewater discharges that we expected to see along the way. And these are just a couple examples of things that we were like, let's take a picture of that just to go back to, but nothing too crazy. The first one on the left there is in Tarboro at their like riverfront park. They're doing a construction project to kind of stabilize the shoreline there, and they're adding a ADA boat ramp and a new stairwell and everything. And we had just noticed that there was a gap in their silt fences. So a concern there is that a lot of excess sediment could be getting into the river from that. So after the paddle, I followed up with our state regulatory agency, the Department of Energy, Mineral, and Land Resources, who are the ones who kind of oversee construction sediment issues so that they could go out there and inspect. Nothing really came out of that, though, and I'm up in Tarboro all the time, so I'm always like looking down over the bridge and checking on it, and it seems to be okay now, so just good to know that that was there. Otherwise, you know, kind of hard to see because they closed the road to that park and the riverfront, so there's no other way to really see what's going on there unless you're out on the river. And then the one in the middle there was also near Tarboro. That was just north of the town. And it is related to like an air conditioner company and their like stormwater discharge. And I figured I would just take a picture of it while we were out there because it looked like the stone that they had placed there, which is like the riprap to kind of diffuse some of that stormwater before it gets to the river. Looked brand new, so figured I'd check up on that, but they have all the right permits and everything. And then the last one there is a picture that we took. I think this was around Spring Hope area, and this is just a, you know, like pumping operation for agricultural land. So like it's farmland up there, so they're just pumping water out of the river to use for irrigation, which is completely normal. But yeah. I looked into it after because I was like, didn't really know what that was at first. So it's just good to go out there and get more familiar with what's on the water. But in general, we didn't find anything that was like red flag. We need to follow up on that. So good stuff. This is still me. So some takeaways. You can do hard things. This was a lot, you know, going into it, we expected that it was going to be tough. I mean, it's a really long way to paddle, a lot of time away from home. None of us had done a paddle for this long, and it was really hard, but we did it. We made it all the way through. I think one of our mottos while we were out there was, if one more thing goes wrong, I'm going home. and one more thing always did go wrong, inevitably, and we didn't go home until we got home, and we made it the whole way there. So it was really awesome, and it was just so, beneficial for our bodies and our souls to be disconnected from the rest of the world. I don't know if you guys realize, but the world is hard right now. and it was just really refreshing to be out in the water, out in nature, and we honestly weren't on our phones very much. We did agree to do a whole lot of like social media stuff while we were out there, but with the crazy days that we were having, did not end up doing much of that. So it was a lot of just, connecting with each other and ourselves and nature. So that was really cool. But yeah, just in general, it was a really fun trip, and definitely recommend to anyone who is interested doing something similar. Again, probably not the whole 2 weeks because not everyone has the opportunity to do that. But even if it's just for a day or an overnight trip, definitely recommend. And we did just recently get a grant to be upgrading our camping platforms that we slept in most nights. So yeah, the hole will be fixed soon enough. But yeah, so a lot of great things about the Tar River. You should go check it out.
I think this is the last time we have to swap back and forth. We are at the end of the presentation now, so of course we want to plug our Sound Rivers podcast. Our communications director does a phenomenal job at making just podcasts from scratch. And we have an episode coming out this week?
Yeah.
Is it this week?
This week.
We recorded it 2 weeks ago, and it's us again for an hour talking about this paddle. So if you want to hear more, we have another episode coming out that's going to be all about the paddle. I'm sure we said some stuff in there that we forgot tonight, and vice versa. But if you're sick of hearing about the paddle at this point, it's okay. I don't blame you. We have tons of other episodes that have already came out on different topics that we work on that are really important. So things like our swim guide program, loss of wetland protections with the EPA rollbacks, pollution investigations, a lot of really interesting topics, and I think they are produced very well. So if you're interested in podcasts and want to check those out, they are available on, I cannot read that, our website, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Pretty much anywhere you get your, wherever you get your podcasts, you can find our podcast. And finally, we just want to say thank you guys for having us tonight. Like I said, we don't do all presentations are fun, but this is actually a really fun one that we get to talk about and just a lot more loose of a presentation. So thank you for having us. Thank you, Michael, for I'm sorry I could not come in November. It was oyster roast, but I'm here now. So if you're interested and aren't already signed up for our e-news, we have a QR code that gets you our weekly newsletter on Thursdays. It's just one email a week, and it has everything that our staff is up to that we've done that week, as well as current issues in our watersheds and how you guys could get involved in helping us address those issues. And then finally, our biggest fundraising campaign of the year is about to come up next week. Like I said earlier, we are a nonprofit. We do rely on support to keep doing what we do. So our April match campaign's coming up, where every donation up to $50,000 will be matched. So your support goes twice as far. So if you're interested in donating, you can go to our website and donate that way. If you can't donate, absolutely fine. Tell your friends and your family about the work we do and how cool and important it is, and encourage them to donate. Just spread the word is the most important part. If I stress anything, just let more people know about the work we're doing and that we are here as a resource for the community. If anyone has any questions at this point.
If you have questions, please wait for the microphone.
Melissa.
Also, there's a newsletter on the table over here, so you could pick it up. It's free. And you can also sign up on the table out here, so please do. Okay.
On a scale from 1 to 5, how good are our waters on the Neuse?
Melissa.
On a Tar-Pamlico, I guess.
That's you. We'll do both. I'm tempted to say 4 for the Neuse. Or maybe, well, you'd say 4 for the Tar. 3.5. Because I would say the Tar is a bit better than the Neuse, mostly because the Neuse River has more development. It is a more developed river, just like with Raleigh and everything, so there's a lot of junk that travels downstream. And the Tar River is a lot more underdeveloped and rural, so naturally there's slightly less. There's still obviously issues, and in comparison to 30 years ago, I would say it's better. We have better regulations in place now, and people are more aware of what they're doing is a problem. So 3.5 to 4.
You said there was a toilet in the river?
It was like a non-functional toilet. It was this massive pile of debris just like collected in log jam, and then on top of it was just a spare toilet. I don't know how it got up there, but it was not connected to any sort of plumbing. So
It's not functioning.
as far as I know, non-functioning.
I have a number of questions. Number one, what about bugs? Number two, tell us about the food you ate.
Ooh, we didn't
And I
do that.
forgot the third one.
Bugs. I would say we really didn't have any issues with bugs. With it being October, it was starting to cool off.
Daddy long legs.
Oh,
Followed us.
I forgot about that. Yes, Granddaddy Longlegs. At every single, they would get in our bags with our clothes, and they would just
down
go
the
out
river with
everywhere.
us.
So that was a bit. I don't remember any like mosquitoes and stuff like that though. So that was very relieved for that.
I just thought of at one of the camping platforms, I think it was the Bourne Farm, which was like between Rocky Mount and Tarboro. Since it got really cold at night, and there was big temperature differences, a lot of our stuff kept on getting really wet. Like we would wake up and there'd be a whole lot of dew and moisture. And one morning I woke up and there was a worm that had wiggled its way underneath my tent, but above the, what is the? It's not the fly, whatever the bottom layer is. Yeah, the ground tarp. So between the ground tarp and my tent, a worm wiggled its way in and then died there. Poor worm. But then I didn't realize that until the next day, and then there was like rotting worm smell stuck in my tent for like the rest of the trip.
And then what we ate, we each had personal preferences, just of our go-to meals. It had to, of course, be non-perishable and not squishable for 2 weeks. My go-to meal was hot sauce, mac and cheese. I think that's all and chicken, like that I'd mixed together. Everyone can share their go-to meals.
For breakfast, at the beginning at least, we all did oatmeal. So oatmeal packets just mixed with hot water. Me and Taylor both brought a jet boil, so this little can that you basically pour water in, and it has a propane thing at the bottom to heat up water. And yeah, so oatmeal in the morning, and then lunch, my go-to was a tortilla with peanut butter or almond butter and some honey, and sometimes I would put some of my dried fruit and sometimes chocolate chips in there, spice it up. But yeah, those are lunches, and then same thing really for dinner, like easy stuff, those MREs, dried meals. Some of them were really high in protein and actually had some vegetables and stuff in them. So I did that a couple of nights, but other than that, just like mac and cheese and pasta.
Yes, so I can echo what they said as well. The freeze-dried fruits for like lunch to spice everything up, and like your oatmeal, that was a game changer, and at least made me feel like we were getting some good nutrients into ourselves. And then, yeah, I had a lot of rice and tuna packets and like those little microwavable like vegetable curry packets, super gourmet. And we all brought some candies and cosmic brownies, if you're familiar with those, the Little Debbie ones, as our sweet treats. And they're all completely smushed by the time we were done. But yeah, we made it work. It was, it was good.
My question is, how does what you do relate to the water we drink out of our faucet every day? And is it safe to drink it, or should we just buy distilled water and spring water like we usually do?
So that's a really good question. What we do as your river keepers and wider river keeper team at Sound Rivers is advocate for the protection of our waterways. So a lot of what we do is kind of being the middleman between community and our regulatory agencies. So if people are seeing issues going on in our watersheds, then we go out and address those and collect water quality data and talk to our regulatory agencies about that, like the Department of Environmental Quality, so we can get those issues resolved. But we also do a lot more like proactive long-term work. So for example, right now I'm working with the community of Kingsborough and Edgecombe County to fight a giant hyperscale data center that's going to be basically sucking up all the water out of the river. So we do stuff like that. And your question about is it safe to drink the water out of your tap is a good one, and it kind of relates to what we do, but not directly. That mostly just has to do with your local municipality's water treatment plant. They all have to follow all of the EPA regulations about how to treat their water. So in general, what's coming out of your tap is good enough to drink per EPA recommendations. So it's really up to you and your preference. I did work at a water treatment plant in college for a little bit, so I kind of got a little bit of the behind the scenes. And they're testing their water every day. They've got a lab to test all different kinds of parameters, and also go out to all the pump stations and stuff to make sure that the chlorine levels are right, to make sure that it's clean enough to drink and sanitized enough, that kind of stuff. But I'll leave it at that.
Talking about water, how did you stay hydrated? How much water or fluid did you take with you?
We did, and that was probably in retrospect, the trickiest part about packing, because we knew how much water we'd need to consume each day, like just what we regularly drink, more so because we're expending energy all day. And also we needed water to cook our food, make our coffee, rinse our dishes so that they didn't have food all in them. So we were able to fit in each of our kayaks a bit differently. I know in mine, I had a gallon jug and 2-liter bottles of water. And I think about the same in each of their kayaks. And we strategically planned, so all those meetups along the way, we had people bring us water and stuff like that. So I know day 3 with Sam and Alan, they replenished our water. And then day 6, we were in Rocky Mount, we filled up all of our stuff from the sink. And day 9, we were, where were we?
The next time we filled up was
Falkland. Oh yeah, the Pitt County Wildlife Club, we also filled up from their sink there. So we were able to, I don't think there's any way that we could have packed 12 days of water, and because it was heavy too. Yeah, we couldn't have done that. So we made sure that we had that in mind, like kind of conserving as we went so we didn't run out, but knowing that we had opportunities every like 3 or 4 days to stock back up. Forgot about that. Yes. Michael. We have one more over there too.
Have you created, or is there a map of your journey? Because it would be important for people to know the things not to do as well as the things to do.
We do have a map. It's not public like on our website, but I think the first step of what not to do is don't go when the water levels are so low. Sorry, don't go. Make sure there's water in the river, especially when you're starting up top. But we could definitely, I think we could share this map with y'all or email it to you if you'd be interested in being able to see the exact route and where we stopped.
And another interesting, like what Katie was talking about earlier with Alton, that joined us, who is updating the Paddling Eastern North Carolina book. He pretty much that book was written just like every little stretch of the river, with any portages, what the minimum level of water to paddle in, like any hazards and stuff like that. It's a book like this thick of just everything you could possibly encounter in the river. So we highly recommend, if you ever consider taking a trip anywhere in either of the rivers, there's books for it. And you can narrow it down to what stretch you're doing, and there's like a couple of pages for everything you can encounter in that stretch. For example, the book told us the water was too low to paddle. We did it anyways. We couldn't paddle. The book was right. We should have listened. So highly recommend that book. We can also, if you guys want the actual link to that book or something, we can email that out or something.
Why was a kayak the best way to travel?
Did you say why is a kayak? Because it's fun. I think we couldn't have done it in a boat. We did joke about halfway through it would have been nice to have like a trolling motor or something to where we didn't have to paddle. I think we picked it because it is the most sucky way of spending 2 weeks just like constantly doing that. But I think all 3 of us absolutely adore kayaking just in our free time too. especially like narrower channels and shallower water, kayaking is definitely the way to go, and slower pace too, to actually enjoy nature. You got another one, Michael? Really?
That's amazing.
I didn't know that was an option.
I should have done that. Spread the word.
Other questions? If there's no other questions, wow, what an adventure. I feel a great adventure and a great presentation.
Thank you.
A great adventure and a great presentation.
I just want to add the biggest takeaway is that we were friends before the paddle and we're still friends after that.
Even closer.
2 fun facts. We did not fight once on the entire paddle. We had no spats or arguments, and we were with each other 24/7 all day, like nonstop. And no arguments at all. And we came out of it with matching tattoos. So
Yeah.
Yep.
Come see our
You can-
tattoos after this.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you again.
thank you for having
This
us.
is wonderful.
It's great to give it to you.
And this has been recorded, and it will be on our website. So, and if, I'm sure we will give you permission to use it. Because we give anybody permission to use it. So. Thanks again for all that joined us here and online and in the future online, I guess. On April 14th, we will be having our annual membership meeting for the Carolina Nature Coalition. And we consider that anybody that has attended a CNC presentation or outing is considered a member, if they choose to be one. On April 17th, there will be a showing here of Our Blue World, a Water Fantasy. And on March 28th, there will be Sound Rivers is going to have a marsh walk here in this area here. So if you're interested, get in touch with them. I'm sure they'll be happy for you to sign up. And thank you all, and have a good evening.